All right, welcome back to the show, Trinidad and Tobago. It's my pleasure being here with you this morning, this beautiful Tuesday morning. And, we're going to be talking to different interest groups, just about how the blackout affected them, because it's important to understand how these things, the kind of net effect that they have on different people in different sectors. So let's welcome to the program this morning the president of the Greater San Fernando Area Chamber of Commerce, Kiran Singh, to just talk to us about how the business community was affected by the blackout last Wednesday. Good morning to you, Kiran.
Good morning, Natalie. Good morning to Trinidad and Tobago. It's always a pleasure to be on the most dynamic morning show on Trinidad landscape.
Oh, thank you, my dear. Thank you. We appreciate the compliment. But Kiran, talk to us. I know that especially coming out of the incidents of criminal activities that would have had in the South area over the last couple of weeks, business members were really nervous about this blackout. How did they fare during the ordeal?
Natalie, it seems that we just can't catch a break in the Southland. We had, of course, an entire shutdown of the economy, not only in South, but countrywide, but Trinidad, island-wide, of course. I mean, it was quite fearful, not only for employees, but the business owners, the managers, the supervisors of the different business enterprises. Imagine we have become so accustomed with having electricity. At the flick of a switch, we have lights, we have water, we have power. And then all of a sudden, we have no WhatsApp. And in this day of technology, we live and breathe WhatsApp. We had no email, the phones went down. It was quite scary. Nobody knew what was going on. And of course, it took some time before we realized that it was not only in San Fernando, but it was island-wide, and businesses started to close their doors, which meant that workers would, of course, want to go home to secure their own homes, because these would become easy targets for the criminal element that seems to be becoming more serious and affecting the society very negatively. And of course, a power outage is a perfect storm for them to operate in.
So
and of course, this led to traffic.
I know that with the outage, Kiran, is that in terms of connectivity, in terms of even security, we may not have had camera systems that were up and about. So how are businesses able to protect themselves during the outage?
What most business enterprises would do, and the security camera experts will advise, is that you hook up a UPS uninterrupted power supply to your security camera system. But this only lasts for a couple of hours. After that, the battery on that would run out and your security cameras would stop recording. Not all businesses within our sector, the MSME sector, have capital to invest in generators and standby power supply. So that was always a hot item on the agenda during the course of Wednesday's events. And of course, when we heard that TNTech coming up to dinner time said that we had 4 to 5 hours to go before power would be restored to the most of the island. It of course continued to put fear in our hearts and in our minds that how do we protect our homes and our businesses without the security cameras. We know the TTPS was also human resource challenged because of the COVID and the quarantines, and we only had so many personnel to have deployed in the streets. And of course, this brings the question that we have the Army, the Defense Force. We know that they were assistant to a certain extent, but maybe we should have some sort of emergency plan. Maybe they have it and the business community or the wider society isn't aware of it, which may be good and bad to deal with the criminal element, but also to satisfy the innocent citizens of us who are law-abiding and go to our daily work on a daily basis, would want some reassurance that if there's a situation like this and it arises and it affects the entire country, as in developed countries, when an emergency broadcast is sent out to all your mobile devices, emails, your laptops, whatever electronic device you have, that there's an emergency taking place right now and you need to take preemptive measures. Maybe something like that needs to be addressed. Maybe ODPM needs to be involved. There needs to be some cohesive element to give the society some reassurance that an incident like this should not arise. And if it does arise, that we have a contingency plan in place from the armed forces and the societal impact, how it is dealt with by the agencies that represent the state and the government to protect our citizens during such a crisis.
So talk to us then about what was the police presence like during the blackout?
We did see some vehicular patrols. Of course, foot patrols would have been difficult given the challenges of the nature of such an event. But of course, speaking from the business community, we will always want to see an increased police presence. And of course, having met with the acting commissioner of police on two occasions after the gruesome murder on High Street, we did see literally an immediate increase in foot patrols and vehicle patrols throughout downtown San Fernando to deal with the escalating crime situation that we are faced with. We normally would boast that San Fernando is a relatively crime-free city, in fact, the southern region, and we always compliment the TTPS and the municipal police for doing such an excellent job. However, we were not able to do that within recent times because of the recent spate of murders and one or two serious crimes that have affected us in South. But we look forward to that day when we can again boast about coming to San Fernando and shopping and feeling safe in our very family-oriented environment and keep this criminal element away, which seems to now think that San Fernando has become some sort of easy target, and it isn't. The police are taking it very seriously. In fact, when we look at the news reports and the information we had dealing with the senior superintendent also, they were able to apprehend one of the suspects literally within a few minutes of the incident of murder on High Street, and they were able to arrest the other suspects within a couple of days. So that it certainly shows that in South we're serious about crime and apprehending the bandits that seem to think that the city is here for free.
Yeah.
We continue to make the point, Natalie, that these guys, instead of studying the business people who making money by working hard every day and making an honest living and providing employment for citizens, that these guys go and get some jobs. If the Venezuelans can leave their country and come to a foreign country and get employment, what excuse do we have as Trinidadians and Togolese to not get employment? And yet you would hear some business owners making the perennial cry that they're looking for certain workers with a certain skill set or some sort of different attitude to work. And it's not that easy to combat. So we have to look at the whole system of how we deal with employment, how citizens look at earning an honest day's wage for honest day's work. This guy who was murdered, he was minding on his business. He wasn't involved in drugs or gang warfare or in some sort of horrendous activity. He leaves them on a wife and a 7-year-old son. And what about the rights of the victims? We always hear about the rights of the bandits and the conditions that they face in the jails, and we hear the plethora of everything that they go through, but we never hear about the victim.
Yeah.
The funeral.
And do we know of any crime that was directly linked to the blackout in San Fernando during the hours?
We heard of one or two sporadic incidents of some minor crime. I think that there was a murder in Laramie, but I think that happened, I believe, Thursday, or maybe Thursday morning or Thursday night. I don't recall the exact date, but there were certainly sporadic incidents of crime throughout, unfortunately, because once there's a power outage, and these bandits know that it's not going to come back anytime soon, law-abiding citizens become easy targets for them. And how do we protect ourselves? The TTPS can do so much. How do we barricade ourselves like a jail in our houses, but our business enterprises are also easy targets because there's no camera system to look at footage. God forbid there's an incident at your business place. And it seems to go into a vicious cycle of how do we protect ourselves. This is an ongoing discussion that needs more attention from a not only societal point of view, but the government, the trade unions. We all need to sit together. How do we protect ourselves as citizens, especially in this challenging economic climate, with the prices of oil and energy, gas being somewhat downward pressured by the global factors that affect us? We still are energy player in the world economy. And
No,
we still, and that leads to another discussion.
Kiran, based on the vulnerabilities that would have been exposed during the blackout, as the president of the San Fernando Area Chamber of Commerce, what do you think you can do, or what does the chamber needs to do to ensure that these SMEs have that kind of protection, whether it's a generator so that they can have some kind of light, whether it's a camera system, whether it's security? What do you think needs to be done there?
I'll start with your last point first, Natalie. The physical security would be a challenge because people would want to get to their homes. They would be somewhat afraid of criminal element without any power. But certainly we could look to alternative power sources. Easy example, solar power. And we've heard the Minister of Trade on several occasions announcing the different agreements they have signed on to on behalf of the government. What we look forward to is the ease of taxes, import duties, making it easier to invest in solar power accessories across the board for lighting, for basic power utensils and tools that we would need as not only business people, but the citizens on the street. And we would also want to advise that we invest in backup generators, at least for your security lighting, your security cameras, and some sort of basic lighting, whether it's in your household or your business place. And if we do that on a multi-pronged approach, we could have some sort of safety net. If, God forbid, there's a power outage. I heard the Minister of Public Utilities talking about looking at diversifying the power supply for Trinidad, and of course that speaks volumes as to how to ensure that this doesn't reoccur in the future. If it does, there must be some system in place. Somebody must be held responsible and accountable for how did this power outage affect the entire island for such a long period of time. And the losses that not only business face, but households, because when your freezers are down, your fridge, you have to dump all your goods, all your cold storage. And the RIC, we noticed that they did issue a bulletin that there's compensation, but that is woefully inadequate matter. I mean, $60 after 10 hours, and I think the maximum is up to 600 or something like that. That cannot be. It cannot begin to compensate not even the householder, far less for a business enterprise. And they have, there's a category of residential, commercial, and industrial customers of TNT. But the RIC probably needs to do some redevelopment of the policy to compensate customers. Because TNT is a monopoly on distribution of power in the country.
Yeah.
So somebody has to take responsibility for when such a disaster happens and how to protect ourselves from it recurring in the future.
Do we have any estimations of what the losses were like in that part of the country as a result of the blackout?
That is a question that is very difficult to answer because it affects everyone from agriculture to energy. The entire Point Vista estate would have been affected, as an example. It's difficult to quantify. The economists are still in discussion as to how much losses were incurred because it went into Thursday as well.
Yeah.
So we await those figures. I don't want to preempt that answer by making a guess. I don't think it's wise for us as a community to pull crazy figures out of the air and assume that there's so many. What I still don't even want to say a figure because it would not be fair to the citizens as well as the authorities.
All right. So, what lessons do you think we should take away from this blackout, Kiran?
We must have a contingency plan in place. God forbid something like this happens. This is the second time this happened within the space of 3 months, I believe. I think it was in December. We had a large part of the country facing a similar power outage. It didn't last as long, but the fact that it happened in just December and we know in February and it's happened again, does that mean in April or May this will happen again? We know that the state bureaucracy takes time to put things in place, but certainly an issue like this needs all the attention. We know that there's a ministerial committee being set up to to look into how do we deal with this, but it needs to filter down to the general society to make us feel safe. That is the responsibility of the state to ensure the security and safety of the citizens that they represent. And it must be for the entire country to feel assured from a state level, and as well for us citizens, we have to make sure that we have our alternate power supplies, whether it's solar power, whether it's generators, and ensure, of course, that our homes are well protected from a physical standpoint and not just security cameras. So we have to, of course, assume that we live in our own jails with Google Proof and easy access to keys. Because the unfortunate incident of the couple losing their lives in a fire was so sad that they could not get access to. So we also have to educate ourselves in protecting ourselves that we don't endanger ourselves.
Yeah.
And going forward for the greater protection of all of that.
All right, Kiran, we do have to leave it there, but thank you so much for speaking with us this morning.
It's always a pleasure, Natalie, and to Trinidad and Tobago, continue to be safe, and let's hope for a better 2022.
Amen to that.